Hello, Cringe Crew Music Podcast Series 2. In this series, we're talking about and reviewing the entire Radiohead discography. This episode, we're talking about their, 2000, okay, don't do that. Their 2001 release, Amnesiac. This album came out the year after Kid A and was recorded in most of the same sessions, so a lot of people kind of see this one as being like maybe like a Kid A leftovers or a B-sides album, but I think I like this one. I think there's some good material on here, but we'll see what you guys think. Before we get started, though, I have a vinyl update as well as a concert that I'd like to talk about. So, yesterday, I drove 40 minutes, go to a record store north of me, so that I could pick up this. Between the Buried and Me's Parallax Hypersleep Dialogues. This is a 3-track, 30-minute EP that they released as sort of the prequel to my favorite album of theirs, Parallax 2. This is the European tour version that was made in 2011, and there are only 250 copies of this in existence. So, crazy that I found this. I think it's like a translucent purple. I'm too lazy to get it out, but it's very cool. I also picked up Ice Nine Kills Silver Scream 1, so now I have both of them. So that's cool. But speaking of Between the Buried and Me, what was it? Wednesday? No. Wednesday. It was Wednesday. I got to see them perform the Parallax 2, the entire thing, live. Which was really, really cool. I got VIP tickets for that. And for the VIP experience, we got to sit down with the band while they had the album open in Pro Tools, and they just kind of did like a by request Q&A where they would break down certain tracks on the album and like isolate like whatever instruments we wanted to. So there was somebody that asked, because Tommy's son has like vocals on the album as like alien noises, and he was like 2 months old at the time, and somebody's like, hey, can we get like the unedited version of Maddox's vocals? So we got to hear a baby crying, so that was neat. So the alien noises on Parallax 2 is literally Tommy's son just crying in the studio, and then they put a bunch of effects on top of it. Yeah, that's all I got for albums and concerts and stuff. Next week, no, not next week. Yeah, next weekend, as of recording this, rather, I should say, I'm seeing Dream Theater, Animals as Leaders in Devin Townsend. So that's nice. That's very cool. But yeah, I got nothing else. Conley, you were mentioning that you saw something recently. If you wanted to talk about that,
I got to see Crown the Empire, Under Oath, and Ice Nine Kills on Wednesday, and they all put on a pretty good show. Ice Nine Kills always puts on a good show, though. They've got a lot of additional props and stuff. They're really fun. But yes, left before Falling in Reverse because I don't like Ronnie Radke.
Yeah, understandable. I forgot to mention at the Between the Buried and Me show, who was the openers? It was Rivers of Nile and Thank You Scientist. I've never heard of Rivers of Nile before, but they were all right. I've heard of Thank You Scientist, but I couldn't tell you a track from them. They were really cool. So it's the one guitar player, the vocalist, the drummer, the bassist, but then they also had a guy playing saxophone who would switch out to some kind of like electric clarinet looking thing. I don't know exactly what it was. They had a trumpet player and then a violin player. And let me tell you, that violin player was going hard, dude. Yeah, it was crazy. They were really cool. I'll definitely have to check out the rest of their stuff. Yeah, without any further ado, we can jump right into the album. So, track number 1, Packed Like Sardines in a Crushed Tin Box.
I really like the percussion in this one. Everything else just kind of basically feels like you said, Mike, like we were kind of picking up from the last album. A lot of the similar sounds, again, Tom can't enunciate, kind of repetitive. Yeah, no, the percussion in this one, there was a lot of like unique and interesting noises that I think flowed really nicely together. Everything kind of came all together as one piece. I enjoyed this one.
A lot of fun. Mixing in. I shouldn't say mixing in. This is very much like similar to Kid A. I love the like electronic elements that they use, the kind of off the wall percussion and like drum beats. It's it's fun. It's honestly a lot of fun. And Tom does not know how to enunciate. I don't think he's ever going to learn how to enunciate. I just think he's living with it at this point. And also, is he averse to writing more than like 10 lines for a song?
I don't know.
Not that it's bad, but man, I mean, they let the music talk a lot.
Hmm.
The actual instruments, I should say,
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah, the drums on this are cool. I like all of the different electronic effects that they've got going on with this. It solid, solid track. Not much else to say. Alrighty, I guess we can get into track number 2, Pyramid Song.
So this is the. I guess I can't remember any time more than this that Tom needing a hug sounded musically so profoundly sad too. Um, like I think that piano was really prominent. It really sounded like intentionally melancholy and sad. The subject material seemed pretty deep. I think this song actually like is weirdly more comforting than other sad songs we've heard from Radiohead in the past, just because everything fit together and it all met the same mood at once.
Yeah, I thought it definitely had the more like sad kind of tone. The piano creates such a like kind of a tense, well, not maybe not tense, almost a very, I mean, a very sad atmosphere, just in general. Um, but it was it was interesting because I feel like with a lot of their sad songs or sadder songs, I feel like they usually do a lot with like anxiety in there too. This one, I guess maybe I didn't notice it as much. This one had a lot more. I mean, I did notice that they love to mess with time signatures and harmonies in there. They love to do that. So there were definitely aspects to it still, but it was very interesting. I loved the piano though overall.
There is a fan theory that the name of this song is derived from the length of the notes. So 3 3 4 3 3 is like the sides of the pyramid. Um,
Hmm.
but it, based on like the weird rhythm of the song, but apparently if you look at the sheet music, it's like standard 4 4. So I don't know. The song is good. Song is good. I really like this one a lot. Alrighty. Number 3, Polk Pole Revolving Doors.
I this was abrasive. There was really like staticky bass noise that just kind of continued through the whole thing. There were sounds that just kind of interjected themselves that didn't really fit at all. And then man, it's just the conversation about doors. Like they just really texture and coming in and out of places. Like I don't know. This one I don't have a whole lot of substance to give you. It just this one felt strange.
Yeah, this was it oddly sounded, I don't know if this is the right way to describe it. It almost sounded like the music was almost closer to like my ears almost. It sounds real fucking weird, but it sounded like it sounded like they on purpose made this louder. Like they definitely meant for this to be more abrasive. Um I think if you showed I think this is the song that if you showed this to anyone without giving them any context, they would think that this is like a joke because I think I would look at you like you're a crazy person if you just said this off to me without any context. Um, but they're doing. I mean, they've always been more experimental in their electronic production, and they're just continually showing that they're really good at sampling and can switch between electronics and rock fairly easily.
This is a funny educational song where Tom tells you about all the different kinds of doors. Uh, I don't, that I like this song because I like to say, haha, it's the funny door song. But like, actually, from what I've gathered, it's supposed to be about like he's saying all these different kinds of doors to kind of be like, hey, life has there's a lot of choices that you can make in life. For you see, life has many doors, Ted boy.
Ah.
I really like the instrumental for this a lot. Kind of has like a sort of industrial ish sound to it that I really like. It's simple, but I still like it a lot. But yeah, funny door song is good. All right, track number 4. You and Whose Army.
If you just kind of like weren't reading through lyrics like I think all of us are doing at this point, I don't know that there is one discernible word here. Like he usually doesn't enunciate. This one is just absolutely unintelligible. I didn't make much out of the lyrics to be honest. But I did notice that again, this was a sadder, slowed down musical sound. And we're back to like an important piano, I guess, which I didn't necessarily recognize as like a common theme from the past 4 albums worth of material. It just kind of feels that musically it's in a slightly different place than everything we've heard.
Yeah, just Tom at his most unintelligible, which I mean does kind of say a lot. I think it was at some point in the chorus where it was the "Re-Ride Tonight" and the Ghost Horses that just sounded like absolute gibberish. I could not if I was not looking at the lyrics, there was no way in hell I was making that out. Um, the the overall feel is very, I don't know how I can put this, like kind of like epic sort of, almost kind of this like Radiohead has this almost very common theme of like kind of a grandiose sort of like ascending sort of songs, I guess, where they almost kind of start lower and they kind of build up towards the end. Um, and it's very interesting just overall, but I love the piano, as Ted's already said. I feel like he's right. I feel like I haven't heard this specifically as much on the other, or at least not pulled out in front as much. But yeah, it's good.
From what I can gather about this subject matter wise, it seems to be about UK politics at the time. There's an excerpt from an interview here where Tom mentions Tony Blair, who was prime minister at the
Oh yeah.
time. So I don't know anything about UK politics. I don't think either of us do because
Nope.
Americans.
Yep. No American.
So yeah, lyrics aside, I I like this one instrumentally. I think most of the piano tracks that Radiohead does are pretty solid. Um, the lyrics are again not that goes over my head. I have no fucking clue. But yeah, song is solid otherwise. Alrighty, track number 5. I might be wrong.
So we did spend a lot of time in a lot of different Radiohead songs talking about how they're trying to get rid of just that band with the guitars, right? And how they were changing their sound and doing something different. Because this ripped me right back to like the Bends. It was a slower, kind of grungier ish sound, but then there was just kind of like some electronic, percussion thrown over the top of something we would have very easily heard from the Bends. Lyrically, I think it was really good. I musically, I think everybody, like every instrument had its own section that was like, wow, that's really like mechanically intense. They mess with time signatures, but yeah, it was just kind of like an electronic addition to something we would have heard 3 albums ago. And I mean, we've spent how many times talking about like, okay, they're trying to change, they're trying to do something different, and this just sounds like we're right back where we were.
Yeah, Radiohead went back to very guitar-oriented, guitar-centered song, which I'm not complaining. I love alt, and I definitely felt a lot of like alternative rock influence in this, and their drum or not drummer, their guitarist definitely is. their main guitarist is, I don't know what to call him, not maybe a virtuoso, but he's very, very talented. um, this one's good. I feel like this might be the most, I mean, not necessarily the most unintelligible I've heard Tom on an album, but this album is Tom. It's good though. Like I said, I love the sort of alt like break, I guess, kind of in the electronic, even though it does keep a lot of its electronic elements.
Yeah. Nice to go back to some guitar stuff for once. While also kind of still doing the stuff that the electronic stuff that they've been doing up to this point. It kind of mixing that stuff together now. Track's all right. It's not really like a favorite of mine. It doesn't really stand out to me, but I think in the context of the album, it's fine and it works. No complaints. Not really a whole lot to say about it. Alrighty, track number 6, Knives Out.
So this is another one that I just didn't get a whole lot out of the lyrics. Musically, I didn't think it was bad, but it's still kind of that grungy sound that we got from the last one. The part that's interesting for me for this one, I'm no expert in music theory, but I do know that like when you spread out like a musical scale, right, certain notes naturally lead you towards other notes, right? And if you don't, that's where you get like that ugly sounding. You just hit two random keys on the piano and it goes really sourly, right? This song just kind of feels like that. I can't tell you that there's any notes that are particularly like, hey, that's the wrong note, but everything kind of like, I don't know if it's the scale itself or the particular array of notes that they use, but everything just gives like this really uncomfortable, like, that's not quite right, unsettling feeling. This is feeling awkward.
If there's one thing that Radiohead is really good at, it's making you feel anxious and uncomfortable during a song just from the instruments alone. The lyrics could be absolute complete gibberish, and the song and music itself is going to be anxiety-inducing. um, I also, I mean, again, I have a hard time with his not with his pronunciation, but just with the lyrics of Radiohead sometimes, where I just look at him like, this makes no fucking sense to me. I'm like, I don't know if I'm just not, like an art student. Like, I don't know what I'm missing. But it's still good. They love to mess around with not necessarily mess around with Tom's vocals, but there's that like kind of echo fade out effect that they use on like a lot of their songs. It's good.
Um, so from what I've gathered about the lyrics, there's seems to be themes of cannibalism going on here, which where is that coming from? I don't why? Like I'm looking at this, I why okay, that's fine. If that's what you were going for, the kind of unsettling instrumentals work well with it. But there's also an interview I'm looking at where Tom mentions like a businessman like kind of leaving his family indefinitely or something, like dad went out for milk and didn't come back kind of thing. So I I have no clue what the lyrics could be. It is a mystery. Up to interpretation, I suppose, but the cannibalism thing seems to be the more obvious. I have no idea. But yeah, instrumental wise, this is cool. It is, I guess, like I said, like you guys said, a little unsettling, I suppose. Yeah, solid song. I like it. All right. Track number 7, Morning Bell / Amnesiac.
So for the first time in a while, I feel like I have a grip on what the song's actually about. Um, Again, the music sat strangely with me. I don't think it was like bad or discomforting this time, but I definitely felt that like the words were about something like ending some sort of discomfort, whatever. But there was like a high pitched chime. There was a lightened mood to the music that made it seem like almost happy for maybe 2/3 of the song. And then there was some weird like distance from that and to be like a more minor key in the gaps between those moments, which created like a weird back and forth. Um, and then I also noticed that the bridge towards the end used that very same Tom learned to enunciate for the same sentence 3 times over, and it's the direct lines from a song that we had in Kid A. You said these were written at the same time, right, Mike?
Right.
So I think this one, like, I can definitely feel where it came from. Similar songs
Yeah.
in Kid A to get.
This is literally Morning Bell off of Kid A, but they changed it up slightly.
That makes sense. Yeah, I took me a second when I heard, when I got to the release me part, I was like, wait a second. I've heard this one before. The fuck is going on here? And then it's not necessarily a remix, just another version of the song with a chiming xylophone, I guess, instrumentation that is very interesting. It's not this. I don't feel like we hear that kind of instrument a lot from them. It sounds like another. It sounds very similar to another song, not the song itself, but that xylophone kind of instrumentation. Now I can't remember where I've heard it before, but it's. I mean, it's good, but I mean, it's interesting that they like to make so many different versions, or I guess so many versions of the same song.
Yeah, like I said, this is literally just a lower and slightly altered version of the track off of Kid A. It's kind of weird because it sounds like they did start just you just starting in the middle of a song that's been playing for a while, and that's like a complaint I've heard about this song, and yeah, that checks out. I don't know. I think I prefer the Kid A version more. This is weird. I don't know why they felt the need to include a different version of the same song, but whatever. If that's what they wanted to do, it's fine. I don't hate it. It's just weird. Like why is this why is this here? All right, track number 8, Dollars and Cents.
We can use
This is my favorite Genius annotation ever. It basically like confirms everything Conley and I have been saying for 5 albums. But it basically reads that the lyrics are speculative and that the lyric and chord book just has a whole bunch of like written characters and suggests that Tom improvised it. And like that's really entertaining to me because there's a couple of words that you're like, oh, that's definitely that word. And then if you just really like let yourself listen to it, like most of it is completely indiscernible. Uh, it made me very happy actually. But I think my big takeaway from this song, besides that annotation, is that the volume of this song changes really significantly. There are parts that I feel like Tom is getting drowned out by the music that's meant to like match alongside him. Different things have different volumes throughout the song, so you get different feels as things progress, even though a lot of it just kind of stays in the same repetition. I thought it was pretty cool to develop the song that way rather than changing the sounds, just kind of changing how you hear them.
Yeah, I was basically gonna say the same thing. I feel like this album. I know you said that they wrote these at like the same time. I feel like they just separated them by how undiscernible can Tom be, and put all of the ones that are like a 10 out of 10. You can't hardly understand a word he says onto this one, because if I'm not looking at the lyrics, this man sounds like he is either on something or half asleep when he's singing these lyrics. My God. I was gonna say the same thing, that in the beginning, at least, it definitely sounds like the music, the instruments are almost like at the same level as his vocals, and or even like higher than his vocals. They sound much more powerful, and they definitely kind of go back and forth, almost kind of like they're fighting for control. But it's interesting with I I don't know how many times you can say that Tom mumbles, but he mumbles a lot.
So it seems that this song came out of an improv session where they just edited down the best parts, and Tom's lyrics were in fact just gibberish that they just cut parts that made sense, I suppose. Um Lyrics are debated by fans and they seem to change frequently at shows. And it's obfuscated in the mix by his mumbling. So yeah, this one, if there was any song that you could definitely say that what the fuck is Tom saying, it's this one. Good luck, figure it out. Who knows? All right. What are we on? Number 9? Yeah, track number 9, Hunting Bears.
Well, Tom didn't mumble, which is kind of cool. Needed a break after the last one. No, as an instrumental track, I thought this was kind of neat. The guitar sounded like Western, I guess. Like the first playthrough before, like they did a whole bunch of abrupt stops, which kind of felt weird. But the section before the first abrupt stop kind of felt like it would have naturally transitioned into the theme from King of the Hill. And I'm not saying that because they sounded at all the same, but like that twangy kind of guitar with a lot of reverb on it was a very similar sounding instrument. No, I thought it was pretty decent. Like it was short. It is what it is. It's an instrumental track.
I feel like I've said it before that Radiohead loves to let their music kind of breathe away from the lyrics a lot, and but I also feel like it's kind of rare almost to get a fully instrumental track without Tom mumbling over anything. Um, it's I do agree that you do hear that you do get that kind of almost on a Radiohead like kind of twangy guitar. It's kind of like it's kind of bordering between like a kind of a classic rock, kind of like an alternative kind of guitar feel. Um, it's interesting, but really good. I really enjoy the guitar oriented stuff. Um, and obviously they've been kind of interspersing that in here and there. So this was a very interesting break in the album.
Uh, so this is the second instrumental track that they've done, at least on an album. It seems that around the time of OK Computer, they had their first instrumental was on an EP that didn't end up on an album. So second instrumental track on an album at least. I kind of feel the same way as I do about the other one. This is just kind of it's an interlude. It's whatever. It kind of feels like a throwaway track. Not that I dislike it. It's just I don't know. It's a short instrumental track with not a lot to it. So I don't really have a lot to say about it. All right. We're getting to the end here. Second to last track, number 10, Like Spinning Plates.
All right, this was a really cool track that I liked a lot. I struggled somewhere in the middle of the two like halves of lyrics. Like I struggled to know what was forward and what was backwards. Because I think the instrumentals, at least from the sound, were all in reverse, which was pretty neat. And then just based on the way that Tom was enunciating, it sounded like some of his words, not all of them, but some of them were in reverse, which is really cool. And honestly, like I think that's a benefit to mumbling all the time is that you can't tell when they're forwards or backwards. Um, Either way, I thought this was super impressive, like really unique piece of music. I really enjoyed this one.
I also thought this was fairly unique. It had a extended instrumental intro that I liked a lot. Um, the like spinning plates almost kind of sounds like 50 different like instruments or sounds trying to like they're all like different plates that are spinning all at once. It just there's so much to this track. Um, because also it took me a couple of seconds to realize that some of the speech was reversed, and I was just like, okay, is this Tom being unintelligible or is this actually on purpose? um and it was very interesting. I love that. It seems like with each album, they're just kind of becoming more and more like experimental. Like they're kind of blending more of their like alternative and grunge kind of stuff with like a more electronic experiment. It's very good. I like this one a lot too. This one might have been one of my favorites on this album.
Yeah, this one's up there for me. I really like the little slurpy noises at the beginning of the instrumental bit. That's very cool. That's one way to describe it, I guess. That first verse is in fact Tom singing those backwards, which is really cool to do that. And I guess that kind of works with his mumbly lyrics on most other tracks, kind of making it hard to figure out what's what. But yeah, it's like I said, favorite track, one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's really good, really cool. All right, last one, number 11, Life in a Glass House.
I'm in trouble with my
More really unique sounds. It kind of had a sad jazzy overtone, which are two weird words to put together. I very much appreciated the trumpet, the piano, and how everything just kind of you know sounded musically. And then we're back to similar themes from the Bends again. In that, like, I don't want to get watched. I don't want all this attention. Uh, but I guess there's some sense of feeling somewhat more comfortable with it. I kind of enjoyed this one. It was pretty good.
This definitely felt like a Radiohead album like closer. Um, a lot of that sort of like again building like kind of grandiose feeling to it. Um, it kind of had that very Radiohead sad Tom kind of vibe to it. Um, that may have been mostly aided due to the piano, trumpet, the other instruments he used. Um, yeah, it was very interesting with all of the again with the different instruments and the like I guess non-traditional rock instruments. It's really good. I like this one a lot as well. I think this is probably a perfect closer just for this album in general too.
Yeah, this one's cool. I really like this one. Something interesting about the chorus is that with the way that he's pronunciating the words, he's saying two things at once. So, example, well, of course I'd like to sit around and chat is also, well, of course I'd like to sit in a chair. And then, well, of course I'd like to stare into the fire is also, well, of course I'd like to stay and chew the fat. I thought that was interesting that you could like hear two different things he's saying with the pronunciation going on. So Tom doing something interesting with him mumbling, I suppose.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Weird
Uh,
that he's played it off twice. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's
The
very
promise is
weird.
on purpose.
Yeah.
but yeah, as far as the closer goes, this is really solid. Um, so I guess we can get into ranking these. Um, so for the longest time, I thought this album was like slightly better than Kid A. But now that I've listened to other stuff and I have like more context, I think my order is still basically the same with Kid A at the top and then OK Computer behind it and then everything else. I think I'm gonna put this one in front of the Bends and then OK Computer and then Kid A.
I think for me, this was a little more challenging because I feel like I got the same things that I got out of the Bends, but I think it was more well done, but less expected. I assumed that we'd get some more interesting sounds like we did with Kid A, that weren't necessarily that slowed down grungy bit. At the end of it, I think I'm going to put this one right in the middle at third for me currently, behind the Bends.
Hmm.
I didn't dislike this album. I thought they did a lot of like really creative things, but I guess there was nothing that really punched me as like making this an overly enjoyable album.
I'd have to say, yeah, this one was also really tough. I'd have to say that I'm probably still in with Kid A being still being my favorite. I'd honestly might put OK Computer just hardly above Amnesiac, and then the Benz and Pablo Honey.
Okay.
It's just difficult because like these last three I've liked a lot. I mean, again, like all of them, but these last three have been difficult trying to rank them definitively like above or below each other, really, for me.
Hmm. All right. Well, so next week I may not. Well, when we record next weekend, rather, I should say, I may or may not be around because, like I said, I'm going to be in Denver. So I'm not sure if I'll have time to record. So we can try to figure out like an alternate date to try to do this, or we can just skip a week, whichever is easier. But next episode we'll be talking about their 2003 release, "Hail to the Thief," which I have listened to once, and I don't remember much of it. And there's only like one track on this that I like really remember and kind of go back to. So basically, I'm gonna be hearing this again and just reminding myself of what the fuck this sounds like. So I honestly don't remember what you guys are in for. It'll be a surprise for everyone. That's all I got. If you guys got nothing else, we can wrap up here.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Alrighty. Catch y'all next time then.
All right. Peace.